What is going on, baseball fans? Welcome to episode 7 of This Week in Baseball, presented by Diamond Digest. If you're a new listener, welcome to our podcast, our weekly podcast, where we recap the latest news, analysis, and highlights from around the league. And if you're a returning fan, welcome back. As always, we appreciate your listenership, your viewership, depending on if you're on YouTube or not. Another talented cast with me this evening, Callie Sy, welcome back. Diego Franco Carreno, same to you. Welcome back. Joey Boley, a new face on the podcast here in episode 7, week 7 of this. Again, another talented crew, a very good crew. But we got plenty to talk about as usual. We'll run through our touching base from around the league, kind of give you a standings update, a COVID update. Go into our 7th inning stretch where we ask these fine folks some of the burning topics from around the league. And then we'll let them talk about their storylines and what they're watching for the week. But let's not delay too long. If the season ended today, which due to COVID, it certainly always could, here's what the standings would look like. In the AL West, the A's and the Astros would be the two teams. Astros certainly pending a playoff spot as they are currently losing to the Dodgers.
Good.
In the AL Central... In the AL Central, the White Sox and the Twins are the top two teams. In the AL East, the Rays and the Blue Jays are on top, and the wild card rounds out with the Indians and the Yankees. So still 3 AL Central teams currently in the playoffs. In the NL, over in the NL West, the Dodgers and Cali's Padres, the top two teams. Cubs and Cardinals in the NL Central. Braves and Marlins, NL East. And in the wild card, in what has been a wild ride for Diego's Giants, it is the Phillies and the under 500 Giants rounding out the playoffs. Barely under 500, that's fair. Rounding out the playoffs in the NL. So, again, pretty talented crew on both sides. Not a lot of movement from week to week in terms of the AL. That's kind of been set in stone for the most part, kind of just looking at where teams are going to finish up in terms of their projected standings. Like I said, Diego, you have been on a roller coaster ride this year. You're not in. But, yeah. I mean, it looks like there might be an under 500 team. And if it is only one under 500 team, I think I'd be pretty okay with that.
If it's only one under 500 team, I pray it's the Giants.
You've got a pretty good shot right now. I don't know what the Giants' schedule looks like from here on out, but
I think it's definitely possible. And if anyone can take out the Dodgers in the first round, I think it's the Giants.
Interesting.
Really?
Callie doesn't seem to agree.
Well, the first round, that would imply it has to be someone in the lower part of the standing.
Sure. That's fair. No, that's fair.
I think it'd be us.
I don't know. Hey, if the Marlins drop down back into that wild card spot, though, they're going to be dangerous. They've been playing pretty well. They've been playing well. I would be much less worried about the Phillies. They don't excite me as much.
Yeah,
you talk about teams that, I mean, that's a team that's all in.
He'll mute, so put him on a good team.
That could be a fun topic for us to talk about this winter, where GT Realmuto is going to end up going.
A baseball team.
Yeah, really good prediction right there. Thank you for that. Some quality analysis as always.
Nats Twitter's already fired up that JT to DC campaign, so hopefully that pans out a little bit. But
there you go. I don't know. Keep him in the National League. I prefer better players in the National League, but that's just me.
Okay, White Sox.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not having an issue beating up on the Pirates and the Tigers and the Royals this year. I don't have an issue with it. I'm having fun. But let's stay on the topic of the Giants as we talk about our COVID-19 update. In past weeks, we've discussed teams such as the Indians and their troubles and the Cardinals and the Marlins. This week, certainly nothing along those topics, once again, thankfully. However, sort of a sad, interesting story. It's a COVID update, kind of not really, more so just a national journalism type update as well. It has to do with, like I said, the Giants, and specifically Alex Dickerson of the Giants. He had received a positive COVID test a couple days ago, and that was the reason the first 2 games in the Giants-Padres series were postponed. They come to find out it is a false positive, so the Giants and Padres were able to resume their series. However, Alex Dickerson was interviewed today, and he had some not so kind words for Bob Nightingale and USA Today. Bob Nightingale wrote an article in which he called out Dickerson for leaving and breaking protocol and going and visiting friends and family while in San Diego, which assumedly he was implying led to the positive COVID test. Seeing as it's a false positive, and seeing as Dickerson not only did not break protocol, but has a wife who is 39 weeks pregnant, and it certainly had caused a stir for the Dickerson family. If you haven't seen the video, certainly encourage you to do so. I think it's a powerful interview from Dickerson, who, like he said, has tremendous respect for the people who do their job as journalists, but you really got to trust your sources. It's a dangerous game you start to play when you dip your toe into the sources world and you dip your toe into national journalism. And certainly Bob Nightingale has had his fair share of positive takes, but also fair share of these sorts of situations where the players have not been too happy with him. But like I said, make sure to take to Twitter and find that interview from Dickerson. I think it's a very powerful one at the same time. Certainly speaks not only to the scariness of what happens with COVID within families, especially expecting families, or families expecting children, but also just in the life of a player and his name getting thrown under the bus for breaking protocol when it didn't even happen. So definitely check that out. And that's really our only COVID update for the week. Again, thankfully, there has not been a big issue. And because of that, they're starting to talk more and more about a postseason bubble. Just to kind of build on that, it looks like most of the American League teams would play in Texas and most of the National League teams in California in some form. I personally disagree with that because of the clear home field advantage for each of those teams, but I digress. But again, something to keep an eye on as we start to talk more about the playoffs and talk more about what the playoff scenario might look like. Certainly good news that there are so few COVID tests around the league, or positive ones at least. And finally, to touch base with the rest of the league, let's talk about some of the weekly debuts. This list has gotten smaller and smaller as the weeks have gone on. However, some really top-tier names still continue to pile on this list, and some top prospects getting their chances. Just some of the notable names. Certainly not everybody listed. Dalton Jeffries of the A's. Jonathan Stever of the White Sox. Daz Cameron, son of Mike Cameron, former ball player. He is on the Tigers. Pavin Smith, 2017 first-round draft pick, 7th overall. He went to the Diamondbacks and made his debut. Sherten Apostel, one of the players I realized that I'm now at the age of having players in the major leagues that are younger than me. He is a ripe 20 years old. It's never a fun thing to learn. Or excuse me, he's 21 years old still. Never a fun thing to learn when you're 23. And finally, not exactly a young top prospect, but Yadiel Hernandez of the Nationals. In his mid-30s, finally got to make his major league debut. So kind of a cool story there of someone who didn't give up, who persevered through some of the obvious challenges that come through becoming a major league ball player. But Callie, I'll let you talk about Jeffries a little bit. Joey, if you have anything to add on about Yadiel Hernandez with the Nationals, I'll open up the floor to you guys.
So Jeffries did not have a very good start. That goes without saying. He gave up 2 home runs, finished the 2-inning start he made with a 22.5 ERA, only struck out 1 batter in 2 innings, and most notably walked 2 batters, which is something he rarely did in the minors. Only walked 9 batters all of last year between high and AA. I think that it's a very unfortunate start. You never want to make a bad first impression, but I think it's the wrong impression to get from Jeffries. He's a very talented pitcher. When he made a start, his velocity was up. He was touching 95 and 94, which is good because back in the minors, he was in the low 90s. I think it's impossible to expect a player who hasn't pitched in a competitive game in a year to come up and be good against a major league team. But I do think that he can be a very valuable pitcher in the future, and I do think that he should continue to get starts this year with the A's having pretty much all but locked up a playoff spot. I think developing him would be more important than being just that bit more competitive in every fifth game this year.
Kelly, you bring up a fun point about, these guys haven't pitched in competitive games. If you're not starting with a major league team, you're in your training facility and you're not facing major league guys. And with Jonathan Stiever of the White Sox making his debut today, guy who never pitched above high A, he was thrown right into the fire, and you could see some of those nerves. And I'm sure Jeffries was the same way. I didn't get to see his debut. But some of those nerves of being a new prospect, a young prospect who hasn't faced hitting like this before. Certainly I know fans are quick to jump on players who don't perform right away, but at the same time, practicing patience with these guys, especially like you said, Callie, where the A's have a little bit of room to work with and can be a little bit patient with these guys, especially this year. Certainly something to keep in mind as a fan, especially, and this is for all teams when guys make debuts. Man, I can't imagine the nerves that some of these guys are going through. Stiever is a great example. Someone he's never pitched above high A. I think Patino was something similar where he hadn't pitched at even the highest levels earlier this year for the Padres. The nerves these guys are experiencing are probably astronomical. But still, a very cool feeling, I'm sure, for both of them.
Yeah, you make a good point about all that sort of rust. To just transition, we got Yadiel Hernandez this week made his debut for the Nationals. He is a 32-year-old outfielder from Cuba. He actually turns 33 in October. So he's, I would say, a couple years older than the average debutant, I guess.
Only a couple.
In Major League Baseball. But he's been in the national system since 2017, from what I can tell. And he's just hit at every level. And across the minors, he's got an 887 OPS and 370 games, over 1,400 plate appearances. So he's a high walk guy. And he hit overseas. He's played in a bunch of the Caribbean Winter Leagues and also, the Cuban National Series, where he has a 937 career OPS. So he's a guy who the Nationals are looking for, potentially going into next year to be like a 4A kind of 29th man, or I guess next year would be a 27th man, or an injury replacement. He's not going to be, an everyday starter,
sure, especially
at his age, but he's certainly somebody that they're hoping they can look for as a reliable left-handed bench bat in the coming years.
Depth wins ball games. Nothing against that.
Absolutely.
Depth wins ball games.
They
depth
can certainly use it this year.
Yeah. I don't think there's any hurt. I don't think there's any hurt in giving the guy a chance.
But no, none at all. No.
Sounds like he definitely deserved it.
Risk. Yeah, he's been working for a long time for this, so
yeah.
He's earned it. So congrats to him.
But certainly testing depth is a key point this year for all ball clubs, and it kind of transitions nicely into our seventh inning stretch game. Callie, cover your ears as we start this, but
this is the time where I start crying.
So if you remember the rules, 7 questions, 7 points. I arbitrarily award a point to who I feel gave the best argument, or in Callie's case last time said something about a witch, and I thought that was funny enough, and therefore it earned a point. Again, we pride ourselves on analytics until we hit the 7th inning stretch section, then anything goes. Again, you have a minute to make your argument. Best argument wins. Question 1. This is where we talk about the depth piece. The Oakland Athletics lost Matt Chapman this week for the rest of the season due to surgery. The A's also reportedly are signing Jake Lamb of formerly the Diamondbacks to shore up that hole. I think that's a very smart move. Our question here, and we'll start with A's fan Callie. How does this affect their chances to not only win the division, but make a deep playoff run? you're on the clock.
The A's basically have the division locked up. They have, a 6.5 game lead on the Astros. We're recording this as the Astros play, so of course that could become a 6 or 7 game lead. But the A's, their offense hasn't been what's driving them. It's been the pitching. It's been Chris Bassett, Jesus Luzardo, and that bullpen. It's a very good bullpen. It's a very good pitching staff, but they also have very good depth throughout their lineup. Robbie Grossman's a productive hitter, so is Sean Murphy, and Vimael Machin, who has been unlucky, but in his time, he has put up a 360 xWOBA, so while he might not be Chapman-like, he'll still be a suitable replacement for him while the A's make that push for the division and into the playoffs. I do not think that losing Chapman will be it won't cause the walls to collapse. It won't cause the foundation to crumble, basically, is what I'm saying.
Right at a minute. Nicely done. Diego, you're next up.
All right. So what will cause the walls to collapse is the fact that they play in Oakland Coliseum. It's just Oakland Coliseum. But no, Matt Chapman, very important piece of that lineup. Like, clearly, he's a superstar of the game, and at least in my opinion, I'm sure Callie agrees. But also kind of what Callie said, the pitching is really what's got them where they need to be. They're a good team, and we've seen plenty of times in the past. You don't need a superstar at every position in your lineup to win a World Series or to win consistently in the playoffs. And so, I mean, I think it doesn't take a huge hit on their chances to win it all or to go deep in the playoffs. It does undoubtedly take a hit, but Matt Chapman, great player, A's, great ball club.
Joey, you're on the clock.
Yeah, so my argument is going to center mostly here around the other Matt Olson, who is probably the closest thing we have to a 3-true outcome hitter in the league right now. Because I mean, this guy, he's striking out, he's walking, he's hitting home runs. That's what he does. They're not there asking him to hit 340. But the one thing about Matt Olson, is that he has been pretty unlucky. He has a 206 BABIP, which is also partially due to all the home runs he hits. But I'm looking for Matt Olson to start to have a little bit of a resurgence here late in the season. If he can get it going, just get some of those tweeners to start falling, and kind of those high XBA hits that aren't falling. I think that he'll really be able to make up for the hole that's going to be left by Chapman in this lineup.
I'm going to give Joey the point for talking about Matt Olson there and his unluckiness. However, if Olson continues to struggle throughout the rest of the year, I reserve the right to retroactively take away your point here.
I
thought my Coliseum joke was good enough.
I thought about it pretty hard. However, I'm sure you'll
garbage. I've been there plenty of times.
I've never been.
A good stadium.
Great team.
I've never been. Yeah.
That stadium.
Question number 2, second inning. Matt Chapman's injury actually gives us a good time to talk about this question. This is a little more vague, so I'm looking forward to the arguments here. Joey, you will lead it off because you won. Who is the most irreplaceable player in baseball at this moment? And we'll say over the course of this season and next, since this season's just about done. Joey, you are on the clock.
All right, so to me, this is a super, super easy question to answer. This is basically like asking who's the best player in the league. And for me, right now, the answer to this question is absolutely Fernando Tatis Jr. The guy is, like we were talking about earlier, an absolute electric factory. Love the way he plays the game. Love the way he doesn't care about the unwritten rules. And I don't see, the Padres rebuild is built around Fernando Tatis. And if you take him out of that equation, then I don't know what the Padres look like. I mean, they still have Machado, they still have Campusano, they still have that great pitching staff, and that bullpen that's been a little bit shaky this year, but is still among, I think, one of the highest ceiling or the highest floor bullpens in the league, as well as the highest ceiling. I mean, it just has to be Tatis because he is the centerpiece of their rebuild. He is the centerpiece of the next decade of Padres baseball, and he is the reason why they're going to have several rings, I imagine, by the end of the 2020s.
Just so you know, you're not getting a point because you mentioned Tatis, and I'm a White Sox fan. Diego, you're on the clock.
Well, glad I didn't go first because Tatis was my first pick, but my second pick here, Tim Anderson. Tim Anderson in that White Sox lineup, I mean, the White Sox this year have been real good team. But, like, Tim Anderson, I feel like is just really just kind of what brings that team together as a whole. A lot of times we talk about that one missing piece, and I think that's that piece for the White Sox. There's like 1.9 WAR so far this year. He's hitting 358. He might not have get the attention that Abreu's getting right now, but I think Tim Anderson really is kind of like the heart and soul of that team. Batting title last year, pretty sure. Yes, Anderson, I think. Yeah. So I think he's really kind of what pulls that team together, and I think moving forward this year and next year, if the White Sox continue that success, I think Anderson's the key.
You kiss ass.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Genuinely my second answer. I had three listed.
I won't.
was my first pick.
I won't respond until I let Callie go. Callie, you're on the clock.
If I'm a GM, I look for two things: the ability to hit and the ability to play at as many positions as possible. The ability to fit you into the lineup in as many ways as possible. And one player is able to do that more than anybody else, and that's Jake Cronenworth. He can play any infield position, and he's also one of the best hitters in baseball. Now, let me get my notes. He has a 4.46 xWOBA. He's underperforming drastically and still has a 140 WRC+. He's a lefty, which also provides added lineup versatility. He's a great defender at all positions in the infield. Really, there isn't any real criticism you can levy against him. He also has elite running speed. He's extremely good at everything you can want from a player, and he doesn't have the expectation of being a superstar, so he's going to get paid less in arbitration. Got to think about that too.
That's the A's fan.
Moneyball, baby.
I like that answer a lot. It's a very Callie-esque answer. However, flattery and brownie points will get you everywhere. Diego, You're lucky you went second. I do agree, though, about Anderson, not because he's a good player, but also because I've seen the Sox play both with and without Anderson. I think they're a different team. I think they're a flatter, less energized ball club, and I think they're a team that feeds off the energy of one another, perhaps more than others. And I do think if you had said that, I would have been like, okay, yeah, you're kind of BSing me, but and I think I kind of thought that way as a fan too, watching the team, and I'm like, Anderson, is he really that glue that people keep telling me he is? And I was like, all right, when he was out for about a week this year, it was night and day difference. So not only is it a great kiss-ass answer, but I actually do agree with it.
It was my genuine second answer.
And you know what? I will choose to take you at your word. I believe you, Diego. Question 3, inning 3. Alec Mills of the Cubs twirled a no-hitter today against the Brewers. Today, I mean yesterday, Sunday. You're all listening to this on Monday. The 13th, thank you. I'm really good at this. He joined Lucas Giolito as the only 2 pitchers to accomplish a defeat this year. My question is this. You know, they talked about it being the luckiest no-hitter ever, but also Lucas Giolito threw his against the Pirates, which nothing against Giolito. It's still a no-hitter. Which no-hitter was more impressive? Diego, you won. You lead it off.
All right, so probably not the popular answer. I'm going to say Mills. Mills' no-hitter is a bit more impressive because, 15th start, I think, in his career? Something along those lines. And plus, I think it's a lot more impressive when you get it from a guy who no one expected it from. Like Giolito, he's been on the radar for a bit. People have talked about him quite a lot the last couple seasons, waiting for him to emerge. And that's kind of Giolito's big moment. But Alec Mills, who is this guy? He's out here no-hitting the Brewers. I think it's extremely impressive. And just, at least to me, I think it outweighs the other one from Giolito, just because you don't expect it.
No, that's a good point. Callie, you're on the clock.
Using Diego's logic, if you pull a random dude off the street and you have Christian Pash and Luis Robert running around in the outfield, snacking all the fly balls that he's given up that are going off the bat at 100+ miles per hour, that's the most impressive no-hitter ever. It's obviously Giolito. By pretty much every metric, his was better. He walked less, he struck out more, gave up a lower average exit velocity. I cannot imagine the mental gymnastics you have to go through to imagine that Alex Mills no-hitter was better. Just because the Pirates aren't a great team. They've faced plenty of other pitchers. Those pitchers didn't no-hit them.
This is 7th inning stretch, rough and rowdy edition.
I've been attacked.
I'll let you respond maybe in a little bit, Diego, but I got to get to Joey first. You're on the clock.
Yeah, I got to agree with Callie. I don't care who it's against. He struck out 13, walked 1. It was a 4-pitch walk, too. Now, so he had pretty much like a span of probably like 50 seconds to a minute where he just wasn't on his A game, and that's what cost him a perfect game. They're still major league hitters. Like, I mean, they might not be good major league hitters, but they're still major league hitters. And he struck out 13 of them. He had 18 swinging strikes. I mean, he threw 110 pitches. He had 18 swinging strikes and struck out 13. I feel like there's not much more that needs to be said. Mills's was, it was interesting, I guess. I wouldn't say it was more impressive. Maybe impressive that all those balls didn't fall in for hits when they should have. But I got to go with Giolito.
Just so everybody knows, the reason we're saying, oh, this was a lucky no-hitter or it was luckier than most or whatever, this is from Jesse Rogers of ESPN. The Brewers finished 0 for 11 on hard hit balls in the no-hitter this afternoon, using StatCast's expected batting average. The chance that none of them would go for a hit was 0.07%. So that's why they're calling it.
That tells me it wasn't a good pitching performance. It was a good defense performance.
It's an interesting.
For all my fellow humanities majors, for all my fellow humanities majors out there, 0.7% is a very small number.
Yeah, as well.
Baseball may be a team game, but a no-hitter is an individual accomplishment. You don't hear the Cubs were a part of a no-hitter. You hear Alec Mills threw a no-hitter.
What about a combined no-hitter?
Ooh.
That's not the case, though.
Combined with the bullpen, you don't hear, God, my mind's blanking. You don't hear El Mango was a big part of the no-hitter. You hear, Alex Mills, he was good. Tyler Chatwood, he was good if we were using the hypothetical of a bullpen. Is Tyler Chatwood still in the bullpen?
I don't know.
I think so.
I actually don't know.
I'm going to give the point to Callie for being so ruthless. However, Diego, despite what Callie might have you believe, I think it was a valid argument that you brought about. I think there is I think it was impressive. Anyone who's able to throw a no-hitter, it's impressive. It's kind of an unfair question, but it was a Cubs-Sox question. Why not ask it and have fun with that rivalry?
I've just been attacked.
What's a pitcher who didn't throw a no-hitter?
A pitcher?
A pitcher who didn't throw a no-hitter.
Steven Strasburg has never thrown a no-hitter.
Diego apparently thinks that Philip Humber is better than Steven Strasburg.
I've never said that.
I don't think he said that.
Not at
However,
all.
I don't think anyone would argue that.
Cool. Just saying.
I didn't. Either way, it's still an impressive.
It's cool,
Lucky
but it's not better.
Interesting. That's fair, and I get the arguments on both sides. But before this turns into rough and rowdy, question 4: Fact or fiction? Jose Abreu and Fernando Tatis Jr. are the front runners for their league's MVPs. Diego, usually I go with last round's winner, but I feel so bad. I'm going to let you go first.
So you just attack me again after I finish? Lazarus wants to watch me burn. Okay, either way, my answer to this question, fact or fiction, yes. Half fact, half fiction. I do believe Fernando Tatis Jr. is the NL MVP right now. Kind of hurts to say as a Giants fan, but hey, he's electric factory, like kind of Joy brought up earlier. However, I'd say in the AL at least, I'd go with Shane Bieber. He's been absolutely lights out for the Indians. And if any year is going to be a pitcher to do it, it's going to be this year, this shortened season. The starts mean so much more. So it's just how I see it. And, the committee might be a little bit more favorable to pitchers this year. So, Shane Bieber.
I think a pitcher AL MVP or any sort of MVP argument is always an interesting one. Callie, what you got?
I don't even think Jose Abreu is the best MVP candidate on the White Sox. I think Luis Robert has a better better chance, better argument, and I still think Tatis is obviously the NL front runner. He's obviously been the best player in the major so far. He has like a 0.7 FWAR lead on everybody else. He's been head and shoulders above everybody else this year, even Trout. I don't think it's unfair to say it's a Trout-like performance from him this season so far.
The White Sox fan in me continues to feel pain. Joey, fact or fiction?
Yeah, I'm very much on the Diego. Very similar. Yes, half fact, half fiction. Fernando Tatis, absolutely. Like we said, heads above the competition. I'm actually going to go with Anthony Rendon for my AL MVP front runner. He's got 162 WRC plus, 406 WOBA. He's got 2.4 FWAR. He's been plus defensively, plus offensively. I'm not. It's no knock on Abreu. He's not good defensively. He's not very good. He's been negative 5.5 defensive runs on Fangraphs, which is bad, especially when they've only played like 40 games. So got to go Rendon. Nats guy. Do love Rendon, but the guy's, I mean, he's hitting the cover off the ball, man. And he's also walking a lot, which is things that lead to good hitters walk a lot, hit the ball hard.
It's great.
Yeah, I do think it's an interesting argument. I do wonder how, and again, this is just how MVP voters are, how the team's record is going to factor into it. The funny thing to me is always the defense for first baseman, because like you pointed out, -5 runs on Fangraphs. Baseball Reference has Abreu at his best season ever at 6 defensive runs saved. So I don't know what to trust here. I'm hoping that by the end of the season we get something from Baseball Savant to kind of break the tie. I like I'm going to give it to Diego because I like the intrigue of an AL MVP that's a pitcher. But certainly, Callie, that's a strong, very kiss my butt type argument for Robert being the biggest MVP candidate on the team, which is an interesting argument.
A solid one.
It's a solid one for sure. I think his defense is fantastic. But question 5. Dodgers fans, I'm sure this is one thing you can get along with them for, Diego. Dodgers fans lined the streets to boo the Astros as they came into town this weekend. What are your thoughts on the display, and do you think this will be something that persists into 2021, both whether it's with the Dodgers or with other teams? Diego, the winner, you are first.
All right, yeah. I hope it continues into 2021. I mean, the one, like you said, one thing I don't like to agree with the Dodgers often, but I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate the boo and the Astros. The Dodgers got robbed, quote unquote. I don't want to see them win a World Series, but cheating's so much worse. The Astros don't deserve anything. All they deserve is this booing and constant, not harassment, but constant berating of reminding them that, like, hey, you cheated, you don't deserve it, get out of here. Like, it's good. I like it. As long as it's not super violent or anything, I can get behind it.
So I will find you holding hands and singing Kumbaya with Dodgers fans now is basically what I'm hearing.
That's not
Joey,
very socially distant of you.
Sorry. I meant when this was all over.
That's fair.
Joey, you're on the clock.
Yeah, I love it. I was looking forward to being in Nats Park on the 4th of July this year, booing the Astros myself, but clearly that didn't happen. Hopefully the scheduling works out so I can be there next 4th of July booing the Astros. But yeah, I agree, especially with like all this Joe Kelly stuff and the Laureano incident, and just seeing like kind of just the way that the Astros hitting coach behaved with the whole A's incident kind of shows me like I don't think their culture is fixed. I don't think anything is better now that Lunau and that other clown are gone. But yeah, as long as it's not violent or malicious or anything like that, I am all for it and hope to participate in it at my earliest convenience.
Kelly, as the A's fan, I can probably assume where this is going, but hey, you're on the clock.
Can't wait to be strung up and tied behind a BART car for this opinion. I personally find the Astros hate boner to be more annoying than the actual cheating itself.
Interesting.
I am of the opinion that if you can't change what happened in the past, you got to let it go and look forward. Dodgers fans, they're missing one of their best teams ever and are stuck in 2017. I think it's really annoying. I think it's really tired. And I mean, I'm angry. I'm disappointed with the lack of punishment. I'm angry. I'm disappointed in what they did, but I just think that people are being so stupid and so obnoxious and so ridiculous. Because I see people yelling at Kyle Tucker, who wasn't even on that 2017 team. I see people yelling at their brand new call-ups from low A. People are getting attacked for being guilty by association, and I think that's simply ridiculous. And I think it's just too far. I think in the year 3000, if we still have baseball, then we're still gonna have people booing the Astros because it's just ridiculous. Nothing's gonna change. It's a waste of effort and energy to get so worked up over it.
Callie with some strong words. Can you give you the point there? I mean, to an extent, I kind of understand it.
No, I do too.
The reasoning being because now you're starting to see players who are just guilty by association.
Right.
And now you're having guys like Joe Kelly enter himself into the situation just because he happens to be on the team, even though he wasn't on the team in 2017. So you kind of see where the line starts to get blurred there.
Yeah.
As much as I appreciate all the memes that came from the Joe Kelly situation, I do see where Callie's starting to go with this.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. I'm more mainly focused on the up the middle kind of core guys that were proven to be involved in that sort of thing.
Yeah, I believe it was your point. You talked about the culture. I do agree. I don't think things have changed for those core types of players.
Yeah, but what's his face? The owner, Crane. Crane isn't affected by this, and he's the one who should be getting all the hate.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I think that there's just going to be a bunch of stupid
scapegoating.
Yeah, scapegoating. Yeah.
I completely agree. Those who deserve the blame often don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Question 6, inning 6. Last week, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Marcell Ozuna won Player of the Week honors. Callie, you tied with Andrew last week. You both picked Ozuna, but you both had Mike Trout in the AL. So I can't give you an extra point this week, unfortunately. However, who are your front runners to win the honors this week? Joey, you need to catch up here since you're down 2-1, so you're going to go first.
Yeah, so for me, picking a player of the week is kind of like it's, I don't know what the opposite of shooting fish in a barrel would be, but it's kind of like that. Because there's so many good players. For the National League, I think I'm going to go with Trey Turner. I know he won a couple of weeks ago, but the guy's been hot, and I like to ride the hot bat. And then as far as the American League goes, I'm going to go with more of a hopeful pick. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that Isaac Paredes of the Tigers gets really hot this week, and Ron Gardenhire actually plays him, and he goes on and he wins Player of the Week. That's kind of like my sleeper, kind of, more hopeful than realistic. But I do think Trey Turner has a real shot, and I would love to see Isaac Paredes get some playing time and finally show us that he can really rake.
Diego, you're up.
Yeah, I didn't do my homework. Yeah. I'm gonna just go with let me think here for a second. This past week or this next week? I forgot what we're doing.
This past week.
Let's go with Adam
Duvall.
Wait. Yeah, Joey's answer also confused me. So
Joey, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you to get your answer.
I'm gonna rethink it.
I'm gonna go with Adam Duvall and Jose Abreu. I think they both had solid weeks. If I'm remembering how this last week went correctly, I could not be. I don't know. Long weeks happen. But those are my answers. I have no reasoning. There it is. There you go. You're welcome.
Kelly saved the sinking ship.
I'm gonna go with Alec Mills. I mean, it's hard to, even if it's not one of the best no-hitters ever.
That's fair. You're right.
I think that throwing a no-hitter is gonna put your name multiple times into the hat. And for the American League, I'm gonna go with DJ Stewart. 381 batting average, which isn't that impressive, but he did hit runs, which is tied for the most in the American League this week, which I think is impressive. I mean, looking at the history, most players probably only care about home runs and average.
You said he had 4 home runs this week?
He did.
Okay, so you cut out. So I just wanted to make sure. Joey, let's try this again.
Right. I misunderstood. So I'm actually still going to go with Trey Turner. He swung a hot bat this week.
All right.
I'm going to stick with Trey Turner. In the American League, Luke Voigt, he's been staying hot. I don't watch that much American League baseball, but he's swinging a hot bat. He's got 16 home runs. At least a couple of those were this week. So I'm going to go with Luke Voigt.
I honestly thought that Alec Mills would be the really easy answer, and we'd have sort of a scenario like last week where we all picked the same player, but
I just didn't pay attention this week.
Yeah, Callie, I think you're going to win this week.
My money is also on Callie.
I have to retroactively give this point, obviously. But if I could put money on it, Callie, you'd probably be getting this point. And
don't tell anybody I just
like my answer.
Fangraph searching while Joey was talking.
Joey's answer was just confusing me, so I'm like, do I pick one?
I thought we were going next week. Yeah, I thought that's what we were doing. But
someone hasn't listened to the past 6 episodes.
Well, no. See, I did. I started, and then I had something else to do, so I didn't get to this part.
Yeah, you're right. I've only had this on a couple times, but once. Thank you, Diego. You want me to take away a point now? I can do that. 7th inning stretch. 7th question. This week was full of odd occurrences across the league. What was the craziest, funniest thing you saw come across your Twitter feed this week? This could be a stat line. This could be a play. This could be whatever you want it to be. Just make people laugh and go find something. Joey, this past week. Don't try and predict what's going to happen this week.
I'm not going to try and predict anything. So Brent Rooker, who got called up last week of the Twins, this week I saw the story. So that's my justification here. When he got the call up, like the actual, like the phone call from the player development coordinator for the Twins, he was playing Warzone with a couple of his teammates. So he was hey guys, I gotta drop off. Like I got, a pretty important call coming. And he turned out that he was getting called up. I don't remember exactly who he was playing with, but I remember seeing it. It was like, oh, that's, I thought it was really funny that he had to stop what he was doing. Like, and it's, they're not that different from us. They're playing video games. So that's probably my favorite part of it, is that he was playing video games with his boys, and, oh, I'm in the big leagues now. That was the best thing I saw.
I do think that's fantastic. And that's something the pandemic has shown us, is just how normal these guys are. And I don't think we would any other year, any other time we'd really think of them that way.
True.
Diego, you're up.
All right. So my favorite thing, not necessarily like funny, or anything. My favorite thing I saw on tour this week was the first baseball scoregami in forever. 29-9 Braves and the other team, Marlins. That was absolutely my favorite thing. I'm just a big math guy, and the probability of it even happening, just in this day and age after so many years of baseball, is so it's rare. And to have it continue to be a point, in fact, that's been over 20 years since we've seen it last. It was just incredible. I thought it was really cool. And plus, another team in the NL wildcard race getting blown out of the water. I'm a fan.
Oh, of course you are.
Yeah.
Callie!
I mean, it's got to be Roach cracking his pants.
Oh, Diego, you almost had the point, too.
Oh.
She could have said anything else, but Ellie wins.
All right, I got to take a walk real quick after that one.
Kelly, for the second week in a row, has won 7th inning stretch, and your award for the second week in the row. I'm going to try and get us back on the train here. Your award for the second week in the row is getting to go first as we talk about our storylines around the league. Diego, welcome back. Kelly, your storyline.
I'm upset. What's happening?
I'm talking about how Nelson Cruz is having a very good shot at winning MVP in his age 39 season.
Please continue.
He leads all qualified hitters with a 183 WRC plus, and he has a very respectable 2.1 FWAR, doubly impressive since he is just a DH. Him being 39 and being an MVP contention is incredible. I don't think that there was ever someone so old and also playing at an MVP level ever since I started watching baseball. Obviously, there's Barry Bonds, but I wasn't watching when he was playing. I was
Don't age me, please.
I think that him being a DH is going to unfortunately cost him some votes, but I've never really been a fan of that. You're telling me that just because someone plays the field, even if they cost their teams runs defensively, they're still more valuable than a DH. DH doesn't cost his team any runs defensively, so he should be just a wash defensive value-wise.
Yeah, Nelson Cruz is one player I just can't figure out. He's incredible. He is absolutely incredible as a hitter.
He had his first full season when he was like 28, and he's a Hall of Fame candidate.
And he didn't start turning into what he is until recently. It's incredible to see what he's been able to do and continue to do into his age 39 season, like you said. And I mean, when you talk about MVP candidates, it's strange to see him up there, but also it's a completely valid case.
One MVP candidate is Tatis is 21 years old, right?
He's young, no matter what it is, 21, 22. And one's 39. Yeah. So it's like
baseball.
Gotta love baseball.
Baseball's a cool thing.
Diego, second place finisher.
I'm upset.
I can tell. Your storyline for the week.
My storyline for the week, I want to talk about at least my favorite for the NL Rookie of the Year. For me, gotta be Sixto Sanchez. I love watching this kid pitch. I mean, It's incredible, like what he's doing. I mean, 4 games, 25 innings pitch, 1.80 ERA, 2.52 ERA plus. I mean, this kid's like electric. Like I love watching this guy pitch. I don't think he's going to get digress at all. I think he's like just getting started still. I mean, I just think he's just a fun watch. And I mean, honestly, that's all you can really ask for, especially for a guy so young, hadn't pitched above, I think, single A before he got up to the bigs this year. I think with the short season, very real chance that he's like the favorite for the NL Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. No, Sanchez has been impressive right off the bat.
How did the Marlins acquire Sixto? Was he in the
he's in the Real
Muto trade?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what
I believe so.
Marlins are starting to see the fruits of their trades actually producing something, which is interesting for them.
I think that they should be a better standard of rebuild than the Astros.
Interesting.
Honestly, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Mainly because I like how they didn't acquire. I like how I like how right now all their top prospects came from trades and not from the draft.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. That is an interesting point. I want you to sit on that. I want you to build on it, and I want you to bring a full, fleshed out argument for your storyline next week. You have homework from me, Kelly, because I like where you're going with this. Joey, your storyline for the week.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Casey Mize, number 1 prospect for the Tigers in terms of pitchers at least. I think Torkelson actually jumped him in their overall organizational rankings. But he actually seems like he's starting to settle into the big leagues a little bit. He had a pretty good first start. He gave up 3 runs, all earned over 4 1/3 against the White Sox on August 19th. He struck out 7, but he also gave up 7 hits. Got hit around a little bit. But the stuff was there. He looked pretty good. And then his next 3 starts, August 24th, August 30th, and September 6th, he got roughed up a little bit. His ERA was up to 6.75. And he wasn't striking as many guys out. He was walking guys pretty consistently. He was going 4 innings. When he went 4 1/3, that was his longest outing until his most recent one. But he didn't look like he had. To me, when I watched him, it looked like he wasn't confident enough in his stuff yet. Mm-hmm. And then on the 11th, which would have been Friday, he went out against the White Sox again. Went 5 1/3, 5 strikeouts, only 1 hit, 2 walks, and he had 10 swinging strikes. And he just looked a lot more confident, especially with that disgusting splitter, and also his sinker that's been pretty good, and that 4-seamer that's it's pretty low velo, but he gets good results off of it. So that's mainly my thing. It's not a super in-depth analysis, but really it's more, I don't like using the eye test, but that's kind of what this whole thing was based on, is that he's starting to look a lot more comfortable and sort of growing into the role that the Tigers are going to need him to be in, for them to be in contention over this next set of years before he and these other big prospects start to hit free agency and the Tigers don't resign.
I think it's a good point, though. I think that's something you have to watch when you're looking at rookies, is how they're looking and feeling on the mound. Are they looking like they're going to pull and roll this Chapman and crap their pants on the mound? Or do they exude that confidence in their pitching and in their stuff? And I mean, I've seen 2 of Mize's starts, having watched the Sox-Tigers games. Night and day difference. Someone who trusts his stuff, commands his stuff because he trusted, versus someone who's making his major league debut. Stark difference, obviously, but also it's where the eye test comes in, is someone who starts to trust his stuff.
Yeah.
But let's close the storybook. Let's turn on the TV, and let's talk about what everyone – thank you for the visuals there, Diego.
I got you.
Let's talk about what everyone is going to be watching this week around the league. Callie, we will start with you.
It's got to be Padres-Dodgers. The Dodgers have last I checked, 3-game lead. Could change depending on the results of this Astros game. So it's a 3-game series. The Padres have the chance to tie up the division if they are able to sweep the series. They probably won't, but it would still be a very competitive, very entertaining to watch series between 2 of the top teams in baseball.
Yeah, those are 2 teams that if they don't match up in the playoffs in the first round, it's certainly going to be later on down the line. Yeah. Certainly the Padres are going to give the Dodgers a run for their money in the division. So a huge divisional matchup, and because of that, another person who's focusing on a huge divisional matchup, Joey, what are you watching this week?
For me, back to the AL Central, it's got to be Twins and White Sox. I've got a series coming up this week. The White Sox currently have, last I checked, a 1-game lead on the Twins, and also the best record in the American League. And I just think it's really interesting just the way that their ascent has kind of been, especially with last year thinking, this could be the year that, the competitive window really opens. That got pushed back a little bit because of some wishy-washy performances last year. But this year has really stepped up, like we talked about Abreu and Anderson. It feels like half this podcast we've been talking about guys on the White Sox that are playing well.
Wonder why.
I don't write the rundown.
Yes, you do.
No. I put your name there, and I say storyline. Let's talk about it.
That's fair. You're right.
You choose what we talk about. I just throw it in there.
But I think that really is just a testament to how well the White Sox are playing, especially with their guys. They got Robert, Anderson, Abreu, and Giolito. And then the Twins, of course, have Cruz. Maeda's pitching well. And, especially since they're starting to pull away from Cleveland as sort of the top 2 teams in the division, it's really going to be interesting to see how that finishes up, who gets the top seed, and who gets to play against Cleveland or maybe the Yankees in the first round of the playoffs.
Diego, Kelly, Jordan Lazowski slander is not allowed on this podcast. Diego, what are you watching this week?
Yeah, so I originally had a different idea for this, but I'm actually changing my answer here. I'll be watching Toronto, New York. Toronto and the Yankees.
That's a good series.
it's going to be a good series. Like they're still kind of jostling for position in that in the AL East over there. So it's going to be a big series for both these teams. Probably going to play a pretty decent factor into the wild card race and divisions and how the postseason and seeding goes over there on the AL side. So I'm excited for like watching that series. I really like the Blue Jays. They're a fun team to watch. The Yankees, I don't enjoy seeing the Yankees win. Who does besides Yankees fans?
True.
But yeah, so fun series to watch. It's kind of got some big implications there. So I think it's gonna be a good series.
Yeah, the Yankees just a half game back of the Blue Jays as of this recording, and I think they still play at least 6 or 7 times. To end the season. So
I agree.
3 huge divisional series to watch this week. So certainly keep your eyes on the standings. Keep your eyes on the divisional races around the league. I think this week can go towards answering a lot of questions as to how the seeding starts to go, with still so many questions out there. I think the excitement may be shifting from who's going to make the playoffs to where they're going to be. So I think maybe even as the excitement has shifted, I think that same excitement is still there for those teams that are in the playoffs at least. So plenty to watch this week, and I'm sure that we're going to have a ton coming from these games to talk about next week as we figure out what our playoffs are going to look like this year.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to do it for us, folks. Callie, Diego, Joey, thanks for joining me. Appreciate the time out, and appreciate the White Sox talk as always on here. Like I said, I don't write the podcast. I don't write what happens, but sometimes it just happens naturally.
Sometimes you bring up questions about Jose Abreu being an AL MVP favorite.
You know what? And then I bring up one about an irreplaceable player, and you say Tim Anderson.
It's true.
I didn't write that one.
That's also true.
It's okay. This is your prize for years of pain. So
exactly. I deserve this.
You do.
This team is not. We're not talking about a bad baseball team.
No, we're not. Absolutely not.
But again, this is going to do it for us. Thanks for listening. Make sure to check us out on diamond-digest.com. Diego, Callie, Joey, and all of our, feels like hundreds of other writers are doing their thing every day, putting out a lot of great content, a lot of great analysis. Make sure to find them on Twitter if you can. Make sure to find us on Twitter at diamond_digest. That's where we'll do most of our posting. Also find us on Facebook and Instagram. There's plenty of content. We have a huge team doing a lot for you. And we continue to hope you enjoy the content that we provide. But again, thank you for listening. For Joey Boley, Diego Franco Carreno, and always Callie Sy, this is Jordan Lazowski signing off. Take care, everyone. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great one.